What would you do if you received a 911 call from a number that belonged to a murder victim from 7 years ago? How would you react when the voice on the line described a crime that had already happened? And what if you realized the call wasn't coming from the past, but from someone who knew exactly what had happened that night and was using it to send you a message? My name is Rebecca Torres, and I'm a 911 dispatcher for Monroe County in central Kentucky. I've been working the overnight shift at our emergency communications center for 5 years. Population of the county is around 45,000, spread across small towns and rural areas. Most nights are quiet. Medical emergencies, domestic disputes, the occasional drunk driver. Nothing like what you see in big cities. I work alone from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. in a small room with 4 computer monitors, a headset, and direct lines to police, fire, and EMS. The job requires constant alertness even during slow periods because when a real emergency comes through, seconds matter. You have to stay calm, gather information, dispatch help, and keep the caller stable until responders arrive. On November 7th, I was 6 hours into my shift. It was 5:17 a.m., that dead zone before dawn when most people are asleep and the world feels suspended. I'd taken 4 calls since midnight. 2 medical emergencies, 1 fire alarm malfunction, and 1 welfare check on an elderly resident. Routine stuff. Then line 2 lit up. I answered using our standard protocol. Monroe County 911, what's your emergency? A woman's voice shaking with terror. Please help me, he's in the house, he's going to kill me. My training kicked in immediately. Ma'am, I need you to tell me your location. Where are you right now? I'm hiding in the bedroom closet. He doesn't know where I am yet. Please send someone. I'm sending help right now, but I need your address. What's your address? 2847 Willow Creek Road. Please hurry. I can hear him downstairs. I was already typing the address into the system, dispatching units. Willow Creek Road was in the rural part of the county, about 15 minutes from the nearest station. I could see 2 units available. Deputies are on their way. They'll be there in approximately 12 minutes. Stay on the line with me. Can you tell me who's in the house? My husband, he came home drunk. He's got a gun. He said he's going to kill me this time. Okay, stay quiet. Don't hang up. What's your name? Emily. Emily Thornton. Something about that name triggered recognition. I'd been doing this job long enough that certain names stuck with you. Names from bad calls. Names from cases that stayed open too long or ended badly. Emily, help is coming. I need you to stay as quiet as possible. Is there a lock on the closet door? No, it's just a regular closet. He'll find me. Oh God, I can hear him coming upstairs. I could hear it too through the phone. Heavy footsteps. A man's voice, slurred and angry, shouting Emily's name. The caller's breathing became rapid, panicked. Emily, I need you to stay calm. The deputies are 8 minutes away. Stay quiet and stay hidden. Then I heard it clearly through the phone. The man's voice. Emily, where are you hiding? You think you can call the cops? You think they'll get here in time? Gunshots. 3 of them. Loud, unmistakable. The woman screamed. The phone clattered, as if dropped. Then silence except for heavy breathing and footsteps. Emily? Emily, are you hurt? Emily? Respond if you can hear me. The heavy breathing got closer to the phone. Then a man's voice, speaking directly into it. Too late. She's gone. You were too late. The line went dead. My hands were shaking as I checked the dispatch status. Units were still 6 minutes out. I'd heard someone die on the phone. I'd listened to a murder in real time and been powerless to stop it. I immediately notified the responding deputies that shots had been fired, that this was now a homicide scene. I updated the call to highest priority. Then I did what protocol required. I documented everything in the call log while waiting for the deputies to arrive and report what they found. The first unit arrived at 5:29 a.m. Deputy Martinez radioed back almost immediately. Dispatch, we're at 2847 Willow Creek Road. The house appears empty. No vehicles in the driveway. No signs of forced entry. Windows are dark, advising caution. Copy that. I have a 911 call reporting domestic violence, shots fired, victim named Emily Thornton. Suspect is husband, armed with a handgun. Stand by. I listened to the radio traffic as deputies cleared the house room by room. After 10 minutes, Martinez came back on. Dispatch, the house is clear. No occupants, no signs of disturbance, no evidence of any gunshots. The house looks like it hasn't been lived in for a while. Dust on the furniture, no fresh footprints, mail piled up inside the door. That didn't make sense. Deputy, I heard gunshots on the call. I heard the victim scream. This was an active incident. I believe you heard something, but nobody's here now. We're checking for blood evidence, but visual inspection shows nothing. Place is clean. Can you check for the phone? The victim called from this location. There should be a cell phone or landline. Hold on. A pause. Then, no phone found. No landline connected. No cell phones visible. Dispatch, are you sure about this address? Positive. The caller specifically stated 2847 Willow Creek Road. Something's not right here. I'm going to request crime scene techs to process the scene anyway, but I'm telling you, this place is empty. Over the next hour, more resources arrived. Crime scene technicians swept the house. They found no blood, no bullet holes, no shell casings, no signs of violence. The house was registered to a couple named Robert and Emily Thornton, but according to property records, they hadn't lived there in 7 years. My supervisor, Linda Morrison, came in early to review the call. She listened to the recording I'd made, her face growing more concerned with each second. This is definitely a real call, she confirmed. The woman sounds genuinely terrified. The gunshots are clear, but if the deputies found nothing, could they have cleaned up and left before deputies arrived? I suggested. In 12 minutes, while you were on the phone, and leave no trace? She shook her head. Rebecca, I need you to run the caller ID number. See who this call came from. I pulled up the call details. The number was 606-550147. I ran it through our database. What came back made my blood run cold. The number had been involved in a previous 911 call. On March 15, 2017, 7 years ago. The caller, Emily Thornton. The location, 2847 Willow Creek Road. The incident, domestic violence homicide. I pulled up the case file. Emily Thornton had called 911 at 5:17 a.m. on March 15, 2017, reporting that her husband Robert was threatening her with a gun. The call had been handled by the dispatcher on duty at the time, a man named David Chen who'd retired 3 years ago. According to the log, deputies had been dispatched but arrived to find Emily Thornton dead from multiple gunshot wounds. Robert Thornton had fled. He was found 6 hours later, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in his vehicle. The case had been closed. Murder-suicide. The house had been foreclosed on and sat empty ever since, listed as a stigmatized property that nobody wanted to buy. Linda, I said slowly, the call I just took is identical to a call from 2017. Same name, same address, same situation. But that case is closed. Emily Thornton died 7 years ago. Linda's face went pale. That's impossible. I'm looking at the records right now. Emily Thornton, 2847 Willow Creek Road, domestic violence, shots fired. March 15, 2017. Both calls came from the same phone number. Cell phones get reassigned, someone else could have that number now. And they just happened to call 911 with the exact same story, the exact same address, using the exact same name as a victim from 7 years ago. Play me the old call, let me hear it. I pulled up the audio file from 2017 and played it through the speakers. David Chen's voice. Monroe County 911, what's your emergency? And then Emily Thornton's voice. Please help me. He's in the house. He's going to kill me. It was identical, not just similar, identical. The same words, the same inflection, the same terror in her voice. I played my call from tonight. Word for word, breath for breath, it was the same recording. Someone's replaying the old call, Linda said. They got the audio file somehow and called 911 with it. Why? What would be the point? I don't know. But this is beyond weird. This is... She paused. This is threatening. Someone is deliberately using evidence from a closed homicide case. We need to report this to the detective division. By 8 a.m., Detective Sarah Williams from the county sheriff's office was in our communications center reviewing everything. She was in her 40s, professional and thorough, with 15 years of experience. She listened to both calls multiple times, compared them, and confirmed what we'd already determined. They were identical. Someone recorded the original 911 call and played it back, she concluded. That's the only explanation, but to do that, they'd need access to our call recordings, which are supposed to be secure. Could it be someone who worked here? Linda asked. Someone with authorized access? That's what I'm going to find out. Rebecca, who else has access to these recordings? Only dispatchers, supervisors, and law enforcement with proper requests. The files are encrypted and stored on a secure server. You can't just download them. Can you check the access logs? See who's pulled this particular call recently? I ran the query. The 2017 Emily Thornton call had been accessed twice in the past year. Once 6 months ago by an insurance investigator for the property foreclosure case, and once 3 weeks ago by someone with credentials I didn't recognize. Whose user ID DC2109? I asked. Linda checked the system. That's not a current employee. That ID was assigned to David Chen, the dispatcher who took the original call, but he retired 3 years ago. His credentials should have been deactivated. Should have been? Detective Williams raised an eyebrow. Let me check. Linda pulled up the personnel system. Oh no, his account is still active. Nobody closed it when he left. He still has full access to the call recording system. I need David Chen's contact information. Right now. Linda provided his address and phone number. Detective Williams stepped out to make the call. We waited in tense silence. She came back 5 minutes later, her expression grim. David Chen died 2 months ago. Heart attack at his home. I just confirmed it with the medical examiner's office. Then who accessed the system using his credentials 3 weeks ago? I asked. That's what we need to find out. Rebecca, can you trace where that access came from? IP address, location, anything? I dug into the access logs. The login 3 weeks ago had come from an IP address that our system identified as being within the county. I ran it through our geolocation database. The address, 2847 Willow Creek Road. That's impossible, I said. The house has been empty for 7 years. There's no internet service there. No power, nothing. Are you sure about that? Detective Williams pulled out her phone and called the utility company. After a brief conversation, she hung up looking disturbed. Power was turned back on at that address 2 months ago, registered to D. Chen, David Chen. But he died 2 months ago. The power was turned on the day before he died. He must have been planning something. And then, she trailed off, thinking, someone else is using his account, someone who has his passwords, his access credentials, and who's now continuing whatever he started. Over the next several days, the investigation expanded. Detective Williams obtained warrants to enter the house at 2847 Willow Creek Road. What they found inside was disturbing. The house had been renovated, not completely but enough to be livable. Someone had been staying there intermittently. They'd set up a computer workstation in the living room, with multiple monitors and recording equipment. The computer had sophisticated audio editing software installed. And in the recordings folder, they found hundreds of 911 call files, all from Monroe County, going back years. But more disturbing than that were the documents. Printed emails between David Chen and someone using an anonymous email address. The emails dated back 2 years, to shortly before Chen retired. The anonymous person had been researching the Emily Thornton case. They'd contacted Chen, who had handled the original call, asking for details about what he'd heard that night. The conversation had started innocuously, appearing to be someone writing a book about 911 dispatchers. But over time, the questions had become more specific, more probing. Did you ever feel like you could have saved her? Do you think about that call? Do you hear her voice sometimes when you're alone? And Chen had responded, admitted that yes, the Emily Thornton call haunted him, that he'd never forgiven himself for not getting help there faster, that he sometimes dreamed about it, replayed it in his mind, wondered if he'd said the right things or if he'd inadvertently made it worse. The anonymous person had been sympathetic, understanding, had suggested that Chen was being too hard on himself, had asked if Chen wanted to talk about it more, maybe meet in person. According to the emails, they had met several times, always at the house on Willow Creek Road. The anonymous person had bought the property, they said, with the intention of renovating it and honoring Emily's memory. The last email from Chen, dated the day before his death, read, "I understand now what you're trying to do. This isn't about honoring her memory. This is about something else. I can't be part of this anymore. I'm going to the police." There was no response to that email, and the next day, David Chen was found dead in his home. Officially ruled a heart attack, but Detective Williams now suspected it might have been something else. "Who is the person behind the anonymous email?" I asked during one of our briefings. "We're trying to trace it. The emails were routed through multiple anonymous servers. Very sophisticated setup, but we have one lead." She pulled up a photo on her laptop. The utility account for the Willow Creek house is in David Chen's name, but the credit card used to pay for it belongs to someone else, a woman named Patricia Morrison. Linda, my supervisor, went rigid. "Morrison is my last name." "Any relation to you?" "It's a common name. I don't know every Morrison in the county." We pulled records. Patricia Morrison, age 32, moved to Monroe County 3 years ago. No prior connection to the area. Works remotely as a data analyst. Lives alone in a rental house on Baker Street. Detective Williams showed us a driver's license photo. Blonde woman, early 30s, plain features, the kind of face that wouldn't stand out in a crowd. "I don't recognize her," Linda said. "Rebecca, do you?" I studied the photo. Something about it was familiar, but I couldn't place it. "Maybe. I'm not sure." We tried to contact her at her residence. She hasn't been seen in several days. Landlord says she paid rent through the end of the year but hasn't been home since early November. We've issued a warrant for her arrest for unauthorized access to secure systems and possible involvement in David Chen's death. "What does she want?" I asked. "Why replay the Emily Thornton call? Why try to recreate it?" "We don't know yet. But whatever her motive, she went to enormous lengths to access those recordings and to manipulate Chen into giving her information. This is someone with a plan." That night, back on my shift, I couldn't stop thinking about the case. Every time I answered a call, I wondered if it would be Patricia Morrison on the other end, playing back more recordings, continuing whatever twisted game she was involved in. Around 3 a.m., line 2 lit up. I answered with my stomach in knots. "Monroe County 911, what's your emergency?" A woman's voice. "Rebecca, I need you to understand what's happening." I recognized the voice from somewhere but couldn't place it. "Who is this?" "This is Patricia Morrison. The police are looking for me, I know. But I needed to talk to you directly before they find me. My training said to keep her talking, to trace the call, to alert authorities. Patricia, why did you replay the Emily Thornton call? Why are you doing this?" "Because someone needs to understand what really happened that night. Not in 2017, last week, the night you took the call." "What are you talking about? The call came from a dead woman's phone number. You played a recording." "No, Rebecca. You're not listening. The call wasn't a recording. It was real. Emily Thornton called 911 on November 7th at 5:17 a.m. Emily Thornton died 7 years ago." "Did she? Are you sure?" "I read the case file. She was found dead at the scene. Her husband killed her, then killed himself. The case is closed." "The case is closed because that's what people wanted to believe. But I've spent 3 years researching this. I've talked to everyone involved. I've found inconsistencies, and I found something else, Rebecca. I found Emily." My breath caught. "What?" "Emily Thornton didn't die in 2017. The body found at the house was misidentified. It happens more often than you'd think, especially in cases with significant trauma. Emily survived. She's been living under a different name, and on November 7th, she called 911 because she was in danger again. That's impossible. You're lying. Am I? Then explain this. Why did the call from last week match the call from 2017 word for word? Because Emily was trained. Someone taught her exactly what to say, coached her on how to call 911, what words to use, what address to give. She practiced it so many times that when the moment came 7 years ago, she said exactly what she'd been told to say. And when the moment came again last week, she said the same words, because that's what she knows. Who trained her? Why? The same person who killed her husband and covered it up to make it look like a murder-suicide. The same person who's been controlling her life for the past 7 years. The same person who panicked when Emily tried to escape again and called 911. Rebecca, David Chen didn't die of a heart attack. He was murdered because he figured out the truth, and I'm probably next. Patricia, where are you right now? Let me send help. You can't help me, but you can help Emily. She's being held at 2847 Willow Creek Road. Right now. She's locked in the basement. The deputies who responded last week didn't find her because they didn't know to look for a hidden basement access. But it's there, behind the furnace in the utility room. She's been there for a week now since the night she called you. Patricia, if this is true, you need to come in. Talk to Detective Williams. I tried to talk to the police. They think I'm crazy. They think I manipulated David Chen and killed him. But I didn't. I was investigating. I was trying to expose the truth. And now I'm going to finish what David couldn't. What does that mean? Patricia, don't do anything. The line went dead. I immediately notified Detective Williams about the call. Within an hour, units were back at 2847 Willow Creek Road, this time with clear instructions to look for a basement. They found it exactly where Patricia had described, a hidden access panel behind the furnace. In the basement, they found Emily Thornton. Alive. Malnourished and traumatized, but alive. She'd been held captive for 8 days since the night she'd called 911. She told investigators a story that was almost impossible to believe. 7 years ago, she'd called 911 while hiding from her husband. But Robert hadn't killed her. Someone else had been in the house that night. Someone who'd arrived after the 911 call, before the deputies. Someone who'd killed Robert, staged it to look like murder-suicide, and then taken Emily. That someone had kept her for 7 years, moving her between locations, controlling her completely, telling her that if she ever tried to escape or contact anyone, her family would be killed. But 3 weeks ago, Emily had managed to access a phone. She'd called 911 using the only script she knew, the one she'd memorized from years of being told what to say in an emergency. The call had come through to me, and it had been real, not a recording. But the caller ID had been manipulated to show the old number, the number from 2017, a psychological trick to make us disbelieve what we were hearing. Who did this to you? Detective Williams asked Emily. Who held you captive? Emily's answer was devastating. Linda Morrison, your supervisor, my sister. The investigation unraveled quickly after that. Linda Morrison had been living a double life. She'd orchestrated the 2017 incident, killing Robert Thornton when he became violent with her sister. Then instead of saving Emily, she'd decided to keep her. Some twisted desire for control, for power, for keeping her sister dependent. She'd joined the 911 center specifically to monitor for any calls that might relate to the case. When David Chen had started investigating, she'd befriended him, manipulated him, and eventually killed him when he got too close to the truth. Patricia Morrison, Linda's cousin, had suspected something was wrong and had been investigating on her own. She'd been trying to expose Linda without enough evidence to go to the police directly. Linda was arrested at the communications center as she arrived for her shift. She didn't resist, just looked at me and said, I was trying to protect her. Emily was always getting into trouble. I was the only one who could keep her safe. The psychological evaluation would later determine she suffered from severe delusions and a pathological need for control. She'd convinced herself that keeping Emily captive was an act of protection, not imprisonment. I quit my job 3 months later. I couldn't sit in that room anymore, taking calls, wondering if the person on the other end was really calling from where they said they were, if what they were describing was actually happening. The job had broken something in me, but before I left, I learned something else. Something Detective Williams told me in confidence. Something that still keeps me up at night. When they analyzed the call I'd taken on November 7th, the technical team found something strange. The call had indeed come from Emily Thornton's location, but it had been routed through the computer system at 2847 Willow Creek Road first, before reaching my line. Linda had set up a relay system that let her monitor and manipulate Emily's calls, which meant that when I'd been on the phone with Emily, when I'd heard the gunshots and the man's voice saying "too late," Linda had been there too, listening to everything, controlling what I heard, possibly even altering the audio in real time. The gunshots I'd heard might have been recordings. The man's voice might have been computer-generated. The entire call might have been partially staged, with Linda orchestrating a performance to throw off the investigation. I'll never know exactly what was real that night and what was manipulated. But I know one thing for certain. Emily Thornton really was in danger. She really did need help. And despite everything Linda had done to confuse and misdirect us, we'd found Emily in time. Sometimes I think about the nature of emergency response. We take it on faith that the person calling is telling the truth, that their location is accurate, that the situation is what they describe. But what happens when someone weaponizes that trust, when they use the system against itself? I sleep with the lights on now, and whenever my phone rings from an unknown number, I let it go to voicemail. Because I learned that voices can lie, numbers can be manipulated, and sometimes the most terrifying calls aren't the ones asking for help. They're the ones that make you question whether anything you heard was ever real at all. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more chilling tales. Drop a comment below. Have you ever received a call that made you question reality? Ever heard something on a recording that didn't match your memory of events? Share your experiences. And remember, the next time you call 911, someone is listening, but you might not be the only one. Trust the system, but know that systems can be compromised. Stay safe out there. Sleep well.